Hello and welcome back. Eddie Radosevich, George Stoia reporting on assignment. Fort Worth, Texas, the Armed Forces Bowl. George, thank you for taking time out of wedding planning. Good evening. How was Christmas?
It was fantastic. Lots of food, lots of stomach aches, but good presents. I didn't get anything for my parents, so that was bad. I think I'm going to get something here in Fort Worth for them, though.
Oh, well, okay. So you're going to get them something even though they didn't get you something? Is that what you're saying?
They got me presents. They got me. I haven't.
You didn't?
Yes. I was busy getting engaged, and so I just, I got the siblings all something.
Sure.
But my dad's getting me new tires for Christmas, which is a pretty penny.
There you go. There you go. Well, I was celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, and I did get something from my parents. Thank you very much. We talked to Brent Venables today for the first time, I guess on site here in Fort Worth. Obviously, a little bit of a different atmosphere surrounding Oklahoma right now going into Friday's Armed Forces Bowl. But I guess at the end of the day, you have an opportunity. The game on the schedule coming up on Friday at 11 a.m. And, for the second time, and I guess 3 years now, you have a football team in Oklahoma that's going into the game, George, that has an opportunity here to finish above 500 going in at 6-6. Brent Venables talked a little bit about that today. It was kind of a weird press conference because you had the dance between all the questions for John Mateer and getting ready, and we'll get into that here in a second, as opposed to, what's at hand with a game against a really good Navy club on Friday.
Yeah, look, I think a lot of people out there, ourselves included, have talked about how this game, in the grand scheme of things, maybe means not that much to a lot of people out there. But I think if you can go out and perform well in a game like this, get a win against a good Navy team, you feel a lot better going in the offseason. And we talked about this on the Unofficial 40 this week, but it feels a lot better to say Brent Venables has 2 winning seasons in 3 years than 2 losing seasons. And also, he hasn't won a bowl game as a head coach. And so to win a game against a Navy team that's going to throw some different looks at him, especially on offense, I think would be a somewhat good accomplishment. And also just the fact of how many young guys are going to get to play in this game. These are valuable reps for especially a guy like Michael Hawkins at quarterback, who we'll talk about in a second. But, Brent mentioned it, only 56 scholarship players. 24 of those are freshmen, 12 on offense, 12 on defense. You're going to see a lot of young players, the future of Oklahoma, play in this game.
Even though they're going to be finishing out the 2024 season, there will be, as George said, a number of freshmen, and the opportunity at hand here is Brent Venables on Thursday, talking about, finishing over 500.
I don't, really look at it that way. It's the next game. It's the biggest game of the year. It's what's right in front of us right now. We put everything we got into winning this game. We have confidence through the work that we've put in, and can it create some momentum? Maybe you could say that. Certainly have lost games the last game of the year and then have won it all the next year. So, but I do believe in, another opportunity for, again, our young football team will pay, huge dividends, a different type of challenge, as we've already talked about with the triple option. And but an opportunity for this team to continue to grow, develop, and get better, both for this year. Finishing on a high note is really important for us internally, and again, going into our out-of-season program, I think it would bode well.
Lots of freshmen. I feel like, when you look especially at that secondary, you're going to hear about Michael Boganowski. I think there's been a long-awaited kind of arrival for him. Everybody hears about him being a big hitter. Robert Spears-Jennings talked about it during some of the bowl practice stuff leading up to the game on Friday. But there are a number of young guys. Is there anybody that maybe we haven't seen this year, or maybe just in minimal pieces, maybe a Devon Mitchell, that certainly should have an opportunity come Friday?
Yeah, Devon Mitchell's obviously one that, Brent talked about him on Thursday and just kind of how he's matured this year. I would expect him to get at least some snaps in this game. I don't know why you wouldn't play him. I'd almost say it's concerning if we don't see him in this game. Danny Okoye, another one on defense that I know they have high expectations for. Do you get him some reps? Do you get him a couple series in this game? I would think so, right? You get him out on the field, let him play a little bit. You mentioned the guys in the secondary. I do think we'll see a lot of Michael Boganowski, Jaden Hardy, maybe some Reggie Powers as well. So I think this is a big opportunity for a lot of these young players. And then, quarterback especially, Michael Hawkins, a guy that is deciding to stay at Oklahoma. You bring in John Mateer as well as Cole Gonzalez, the Western Carolina quarterback, who's going to come in and has played a lot lot of football. But Michael Hawkins is kind of the future in that quarterback room, at least long term. So you want to see him perform. Last time we saw him, Eddie, it was not good. No. And so you want to see him go out and perform well in a game like this.
If nothing else, you want to be able to see some steps made here. Over the course of the last couple of weeks, there was a lot of talk about that with some of the players. Troy Everett and Kobe McKenzie spoke with the media. You can see both those interviews on Sooner Scoop editorial page. But certainly the talk was about Michael Hawkins, as well as some of the young guys in the Oklahoma secondary, as well as on the defensive line that will have an opportunity on Thursday. Here is the head coach, Brent Venables.
Yeah, again, great opportunity across the board, really at all three levels for freshmen that are sprinkled in. So the practices have been great. I think because of a couple of the guys that are no longer here, it's created more of a sense of urgency, required more attentiveness, if you will, and the details that go along with playing at a really high level. And so no question that the last few weeks and all the reps that those guys have been able to get will pay, again, huge dividends, not only for this game, but in particular, moving forward to next year. But guys up front, guys like Taylor Wine or Danny Okoye in particular, or David Stone, those guys, James Nesta, he's been, taking reps, at linebacker, with the defense, and where he's been on a scout team, all year. So guys like that, and then again another couple of weeks for Boganowski and Jaden Hardy, who we feel are going to be outstanding players. Or you look outside at Jeremiah Newcomb and Day-Day. Those guys have really benefited from not just watching guys take reps at practice, but actually going out and kind of living and dying in all the moments that the last couple of weeks have done for our guys. Yeah, no doubt. And the more you play, the better you get. You go through the good and the bad, everything that you got to go through in order to develop. And Mike's taking it like a pro. He's the same guy every day. He's a quiet leader, but he's ultra consistent, very competitive, focused and locked in. He's got a maturity about him that is priceless, and he values practice reps. What that the mindset that you got to have and what that means for you on game day, and understands that you play the game well before the game happens. And so I appreciate that mindset that he possesses, and that bleeds over into the other guys around him as well. And but the guys that we do have some veterans that have really helped him and embraced him. I think the defensive players as a group have also really helped his growth and maturation and his confidence along the way. And I think the staff has done a really nice job at supporting Mike and helping him grow up.
Plenty of talk about Michael Hawkins, right? But I think that there was that moment at the beginning of the press conference, because this was the first time that we had talked to Brent since the signing or the commitment, and then the signing of John Mateer. Didn't glean a whole lot just in terms of what it is, but it's still rather important, and it's going to be rather important here moving forward over the next 6-7 months.
Yeah, I think I got the second question of the press conference and asked about John Mateer. And
you derailed it. You completely disrespected the Navy.
I did, but it had to be asked. Look, that's the big news with Oklahoma right now. John Mateer and just the transfer portal activity for Oklahoma, which we'll get into some of the other portal stuff here in a second. But huge news, obviously a lot of excitement around Mateer. They're hoping to build around that. And I thought it was really interesting, Brent, giving an answer later on in the press conference, says, hey, look, we feel like if we just don't turn the ball over and we get better quarterback play, we're going to be a lot better next year, which I think kind of signals what they've been doing in the portal. Is they haven't been going after the top talent. They've been filling some gaps, but they feel like with John Mateer now in the boat that they're going to be really successful at that position next year. Is that what's going to happen? We'll see. It's somewhat of a big gamble with Mateer and Ben Arbuckle, but they really like him, and I thought Brent's comments obviously reflected that, even though you could tell he definitely didn't really want to get into it too much today, at least.
Here is Brent Venables on his new quarterback, John Mateer.
But again, John, he grew up here in Dallas area and very familiar with Oklahoma. Certainly Coach Arbuckle coming There's a great familiarity and comfort for him. But, we're incredibly thankful he, chose to be a Sooner. It's a very competitive space, as everybody knows. Appreciate, the coaching staff for, what they were able to do and convincing him to come and just improving that room. We had to really start over in that room, and it's in a much different space now than what it was just a couple of weeks ago, as we know.
Two guys that Oklahoma certainly hopes to be a part of the program. They know that they have one in Deion Burks. Obviously, his status going into tomorrow, he wants to play. We'll see how much. I know that's something that we had talked about after speaking with Deion, last week back in Norman. But the other guy, R. Mason Thomas, a little bit of weirdness right now, just with the social media post that got posted and then deleted, and then who knows what was kind of happening there. But I think the one thing that we can say, and George asked Brent Venables about it on Thursday, was it feels like he's going to be coming back. I know that, everything from the NIL side, it feels like is in place for him to be well compensated if he were to come back in 2025. It's almost kind of a point now where you're just kind of waiting to hear it from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, you have to wonder, why would one Oklahoma tweet that if they didn't feel confident in him coming back? Now, maybe they just jumped the gun on it and he wants to do his own announcement. We'll see. I don't know the exact date when he would have to technically declare. R. Mason's not somebody that I think Oklahoma's worried about entering the portal. It's more of, is he going to stay or is he going to go to the NFL? Sure. And I know he's still getting draft grades back and all of that sort of thing. So we'll see. I thought Brent's comments were pretty telling of what they feel about him. Obviously, they want him back, from our understanding, and we've reported this on Sooner Scoop. He's been offered a very attractive NIL deal. So I think that they're in a good place. We'll just have to wait and see on if, he makes an announcement, sort of like, Deion Burks obviously put out his, video a couple weeks ago. It'd be huge news to keep a guy like that. I mean, you're talking about a guy that is an all-SEC type player, maybe a future All-American if he comes back next year, and, potentially jumping into the first round of the draft, at least a day 2 type pick if he were to come back for another year. So he's a key part. And I thought it was interesting. Brent talked a lot today about how important it was to retain the defensive side of the football. And you've seen that. They haven't lost a lot of guys on that side of the ball. They haven't been as active on that side of the ball in the transfer portal, whereas offensively they are having to fill some gaps. They feel very good if they can keep these guys. R. Mason, obviously on the back end, you've got Robert Spears-Jennings and Peyton Bowen coming back, the young talent there. Linebacker, you feel really good with Kobe McKenzie and Kip Lewis. And then up front, if you can keep on to a Dominic Williams, obviously Jaden Jackson, David Stone, the young players, you'd feel really good about this defense heading into next season.
Here is Brent Venables on Thursday, just kind of talking about where he's coming from, I guess his side of the story on R. Mason Thomas in 2025.
Getting Deion back, he's, when healthy, he's a fantastic player. And as we spoke about him throughout the last calendar year, he's one of the best competitors that we have on the team. He's got a very dynamic skill set to play both outside and inside alike, and just a great weapon for any offense to have. And then R. Mason, again, I'll let him talk to everybody whenever he wants to talk to everybody, but I know he's going to be lining up for us in this game, and look forward to that. And in his leadership, how he's grown as a leader, certainly his improvement as a player. Really, again, proud of the leadership that he's been able to exemplify for all of our players, and his commitment, from beginning to end is as good as it gets.
It was kind of funny on Thursday as we're sitting here, and it was a joint news conference or press conference with Brian Newberry, the Navy head coach. Much different vibe in terms of, some of the questions that he's having to answer, because you don't have to really worry about that whole bullshit that is the transfer portal right now. It was just kind of funny.
Yeah, no, and also, I mean, Brent got way more questions, and he joked at one point, Newberry did, that he was wondering why he was here, because Brent was the only one getting questions. But yeah, it's a different world, sure. and Brent's not feeling sorry for anybody, but he did say, he's like, look, this is the most difficult it's ever been to build a roster. When you only have 56 scholarship players available, it's going to be really tough. But look, I think this is a game Oklahoma should win. I really do think that. Now, is it going to be difficult? Yes, because you're playing.
There's been a number of those this year, George.
I know. But you're going to have more talent, and I get it. You're limited in the guys that aren't playing, and I think that this Navy offense can give Oklahoma some issues just because Oklahoma's never faced anything like this, and you're missing your two leaders, Billy Bowman and Danny Stutzman. But I think that Oklahoma should be able to find some success running the football in this game. I think it's going to be a very short game. Like, I think this game is going to fly by. Sure. And then I think this defense has shown this year to be able to get stops. So this is a game I feel like Oklahoma should win. This would be big. I know, again, it's very meaningless in a lot of ways, but I do think it would be kind of big to win this, feel good about yourself. You got your quarterback, you got your offensive coordinator. If you can finish the season with a winning record, which I know is not the standard at Oklahoma, 7-6, we all get that. But I do think there is some level of importance of at least performing well in this game, whereas last year against Arizona, they did not perform well, especially late in that game. You would like to see them perform a little bit better.
You heard it here first. If they win, it's going to be a big deal. And if they go out and get beat on Friday morning at a,
I would say this would be if they lose to Navy, this would be Brent's worst loss in a bowl game, I would say, because you look at his first two opponents. Florida State was very good,
sure,
and Arizona was a very good football team. I think that Navy is a good team, but they're not on those same levels. This is a game Oklahoma should win.
Well, I respect the servicemen. I respect everybody that is serving our country right now. George, doesn't sound like it as much. So we will be there Friday morning, Amon Carter Stadium, Oklahoma Navy for the Armed Forces Bowl. And if nothing else, it could be in the DFW Metroplex here over the next couple days. So for George Stoia, I'm Eddie Radosevich. We'll see you after the game for the Instant Reaction, as well as the Eskridge Lexus postgame podcast with Carrie Murdoch in tow. We will talk to you next time.